everyone. Welcome to the Extra Point Show. Thanks for joining us this week.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us.
Today, we've got some rather rather big news as far as the NFL goes. First and foremost, we want to report on the passing of, unfortunately, another NFL head coach, and that being longtime NFL legend Dan Reeves. Dan Reeves, who has appeared in 9 Super Bowls total as both a player, an assistant coach, and a head coach, died in his home in Atlanta on Saturday. He was 77 years old.
Yeah, hopefully this trend doesn't continue. I mean, first John Madden, and now Dan Reeves.
It's definitely not what
Unfortunately,
we
these
look
guys getting
forward
old,
to
and
reporting on. Yeah, some legendary head coaches here passing in back-to-back weeks. But yeah, some of what Reeves is known for, and kind of like his claim to fame. He's one of only 10 coaches to have ever won at least 190 regular season games in his career, and he's guided 2 teams to the Super Bowl. He guided the Denver Broncos to the Super Bowl 3 separate times, and he guided the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl as well. He's also head coach of the Giants for 4 seasons in between those two runs.
but he did not win any Super Bowls, correct?
No, unfortunately. Well, okay. So as a head coach, he was 0-4 in the Super Bowl. He did
Mm-hmm.
win 2 Super Bowls as a player, and he was he was an assistant coach on 3 Super Bowl victories. So he did get some Super Bowl rings, but just never as the head man
Head coach.
himself. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but sort of. Reeves spent 39 consecutive years in the NFL from his rookie year in 1965, when he was a player with the Dallas Cowboys. He's most known um, during his 8-year career as the player that completed a 50-yard touchdown pass to Lance Rensel in the Ice Bowl game, which was like the game where it was like one of the coldest games ever played. It was like I think like 13 below zero or something like that.
Negative like 30 or
Yeah,
something
it was
crazy.
something ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
field's
So
probably frozen at that
yeah,
point. Like,
yeah. I'm sure that ball was a pain to catch, and he completed a 50-yard bomb on a halfback pass in the Ice Bowl. And then, like I said, he played in 2 Super Bowls. Um, and then he was also, as we mentioned, an assistant coach on 3 Super Bowl staffs, and then led the Broncos to 3 Super Bowls. However, was unsuccessful in those 3 runs. With John Elway at quarterback. It wasn't until he was replaced by Mike Shanahan that Denver actually won a
Mike
couple Super.
Shanahan.
Yeah, Mike Shanahan was actually Dan Reeves' offensive coordinator on the staff previously. So Mike Shanahan was on the staff, and then he ended up taking over when Dan Reeves went to the Giants. Dan Reeves led the
Gotcha.
Giants for 4 seasons, including an 11-5 season in 1993, and then he has a 201, 174, and 2 coaching record overall, including postseason wins. He's one of only 9 coaches in NFL history to win 200 games combined between the regular season and the postseason. And a statement that was made from Washington, or I'm sorry, New York Giants. Sorry, Giants
Yes.
president John Mara issued a statement saying Dan Reeves had a legendary NFL career, both as a player and a coach. He made an indelible mark on the league and all of the people he played with, coached, and worked alongside. New York Giants president John Mara said, "He was one of the finest men I've ever been around in this business. Our deepest condolences to Pam and the entire Reeves family." And after Reeves left um, the New York Giants, he actually didn't take any time off. A lot of times you'll see a head coach take a season or 2 off in between jobs, but he didn't. That was kind of the most impressive thing. He spent 39 consecutive years in the NFL without ever taking a season off. No burnout. He must have really enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
Um,
Very dedicated.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, Dan Reeves also spent 7 seasons as the head coach of the Falcons, and he was fired after Week 14 of the 2003 season. After they got off to a rough start, but he did take the Falcons to a Super Bowl one year. That was prior to this, but he also brought in Mike Vick. He was also instrumental in that, which obviously changed a lot of the way that the game's played because he opened the door.
Absolutely.
Before that, there were still some running quarterbacks. You know, you had your Steve Young, you had Randall Cunningham. You know, there were some running, but definitely Michael Vick was really the first, like, Colin Kaepernick, Lamar Jackson, type of Kyler
Yeah,
Murray type of
definitely.
guy. Yeah. So Dan
Game
Reeves
changer.
very instrumental in bringing Michael Vick in, and obviously Michael Vick ended up missing 20 games over the course of Dan Reeves' last 3 seasons in Atlanta, which obviously played a role in him getting fired, since they didn't have their best player out there.
Right, right. Well, now for something a little more fun,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Depending how you look at it. I mean, at least when you watched it, it was fun.
It
We hear more
was
about it, not so much. But
it was an interesting situation. I remember watching it. And we were watching the game, and we didn't have because we were watching it where we had all the games on, so we didn't
mhm.
have audio for that game. So saw him on the field, and Flynn's like, it's a streaker, it's a streaker, and he thought it was a streaker at first, like, and
I think I saw it because it was on after another game, and I
yeah,
put that on, and
yeah,
then
we,
I
we
think I
we
just
saw it
happened to
we
see
saw
it.
it live, yeah, and
Yeah,
it was
like
it was
that was the most ridiculous. You're like, what is happening,
yeah,
dude? Oh, and
yeah.
Antonio Brown is who we're talking about.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
didn't say that, but
exactly. Yeah, if we didn't clarify, this is the Antonio Brown situation. During last weekend's game between the Buccaneers and the Jets, Antonio Brown would proceed to take his game jersey, his gloves, his pads, everything,
all of his equipment, all of it,
chuck
and
him
start
into the
chucking
chuck
it
him into
into
the
the
Jets crowd,
stand.
and proceed to exit the game in the third quarter. At the time, with the Buccaneers trailing the Jets shockingly 24-10. Now, despite fellow wide receiver Mike Effort's best efforts to try to restrain him and keep him from leaving, Antonio Brown, while the game was still playing, mind you, proceeded to exit through one of the end zones and out the tunnel while, like, doing jumping jacks and, like, waving goodbye
Yeah, I
to
heard he
the
asked one of the cops or something for like a ride somewhere on the way out. Or I mean, I could, I don't know if that's true or not, but
obviously,
I
I
remember
don't think he
seeing that
got one because we
somewhere.
saw that
I don't think
picture.
he got one. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they told him no.
Uh,
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe he did that. It's more interesting because there's been conflicting reports on what happens,
right.
depending on if you talk to Bruce Arians or Antonio Brown. But it seems to be over the receiver's refusal to re-enter the game. But
Right.
he also said that they made him play on an injury, and then there's also those stats involved where he's gonna the money he could make from that
Yeah.
play. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors and a lot of different possibilities there that you don't really know what the truth is.
Right, right, yeah. So I mean, basically, in a statement that so basically, there's been numerous statements given by, at this point, Antonio Brown and AB, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, or BA, at this point, including that, yeah, he was playing on an injured ankle. I think that was a known issue going in. Um, but yeah, I guess he said that he relented under the pressure from Bruce Arians to play injured, and claiming that Tampa Bay injected him with a dangerous painkiller to be able to
Hmm.
get through the discomfort in the game against the Jets. And he finished the game with 3 catches for 26 yards on 5 targets, um, before he would sit out in the third quarter and exit the game in what he called extreme pain. Um, Now, after these
See, I
initial,
would believe that more if he didn't exit the game the way that he did.
yeah. Oh, you mean like jumping around?
On Thursday, Brown revealed text messages with Bruce Arians the week prior that seemed to prove Arians knew Brown was injured prior to the game. I mean, that would explain the injection with the painkiller if that were. It has also been reported that Brown was just 8 catches away from triggering a 300,000 incentive bonus. There was a couple others on that. I think it was like 5 touchdowns for another 300,000,
I
and then
think he
the game
only has like a base salary of like 1.5 million on like a 1-year deal, so I think his contract was mainly incentive
incentive
laden.
based. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was definitely, felt like they were freezing him out by refusing to throw him the ball, but still wanted him to go in the game and run routes, and play despite the fact that they weren't throwing him the ball. And then apparently BA approached him on the sideline about his refusal to go back in the game, because I guess one of the other coaches let him know, and he like waved off the coaches. And Brown reportedly said, "I ain't playing," to which Arians responded, "Get the F out." And then what Brown says is he describes Arians as shouting at him as, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And then Brown allegedly said he couldn't go back into the game because of his ankle. And then at that time, Arians shouted, "You're done," and then told him to get the F out. So at that point, that's when...
Well, Arians then had a different take on it. Obviously,
yeah,
you're going to get different. And
Right.
and according to him, he said that Antonio Brown said, "I ain't playing, I ain't getting the ball," and that's when he said, "You're done, get the fuck out."
Yeah, exactly.
So-
So he did proceed to get the fuck out and exit through said end zone.
But it is an interesting situation because you don't really know, and there's this injury, there's this
There's a lot of
incentive, a bunch of stats that he can or make money on. Then it's there's which one is it? Did they give him a painkiller and then now he can't play because of his ankle, or they're not playing?
I
and
feel
he's
like
trying
there's
to
a
come
lot
up
of
with an excuse.
I feel like there's a lot of half truths in this situation, and we're just not getting the full truth. Like I feel like both parties are telling the truth on some reports, but I don't feel like either party is telling the whole truth.
Right.
And then Tom Brady, patron saint Tom Brady comes out and basically, through all this is like, "I just hope he gets the help he needs." I was like, my God, I was like, Tom Brady's like, all right, well, fucking teammate of the decade, Tom Brady there. But, without their best receiver, they rallied to end up beating the Jets, which you would expect 28-24. But yeah, so, and then after the game, Arians ended up saying, "I wish him well. If he needs help, I hope he gets some. It's very hard because I do care about him. I care about him a bunch. I hope that he's okay." And it wasn't until Thursday, the game happened on Sunday, it wasn't until Thursday that Brown was officially released. He did clear waivers. He wasn't picked up, so he is officially a free agent, although he has also stated that he wouldn't be 100% even if a team were to pick him up right now.
Yeah, given the drama, I don't think a lot of teams would be interested in him. Maybe in the future, given how this plays out. But we actually find out what the actual truth was and what actually happened.
Yeah.
But
if there's more released, we'll certainly report on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, so we're gonna recap the Week 16 action just real quickly, let you know how everybody's looking as far as the playoff picture goes. Unfortunately, Week 16 did start with a rather unfortunate loss that the Niners took at the hands of the Tennessee Titans. Despite our getting up to a 10-0 lead early, the Titans did come back and rally with a strong third quarter, and we ended up tying the game up at 17 on a nice 95-yard drive. But the Titans ended up kicking a 44-yard game-winning Randy Bullock field goal at the end of the game, which was rather unfortunate. Also notable in that game was Jimmy had his thumb injured in that game. He did play through the entire game, but it was reported afterwards that he had a sprained thumb, and that he would be, after it was initially reported he wouldn't, it was then reported that he would require off-season surgery for that. So that's
not
unfortunate.
Good.
But
definitely never want to hear that.
Yeah, and then there was also the
Browns and the Packers.
Yeah, the Browns.
That's a divisional game, isn't it?
No,
definitely
not.
No,
yeah,
it's not.
That's,
okay.
That's
See,
AFC,
I don't know some of these.
Yeah.
That's right. The Browns are AFC. That's right.
Yeah. So Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Packers ended up beating them 24-22.
Yeah.
Making them 12-3 and knocking the Browns down to 7-8. Rodgers actually surpassed the same record by Brett Favre for 442 for most pass touchdowns in Green Bay history.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He did pass
So
Brett Favre in that. So
very
yeah,
big day for Aaron Rodgers.
yeah. They definitely did a whole like ceremony for him after the game and interviewed him and everything. And yeah, I mean the Browns had a chance to win that game, but also notable was Baker Mayfield throwing 4 interceptions. So I mean, if he doesn't do that, Cleveland's got a real shot to win that game. So yeah, I mean, with the Browns dropping down to 7-8, that all but eliminated them from the playoff picture after they were a playoff team last year. So obviously
Mm. Is
they
Baker
came in.
still injured at all?
Yeah, he was injured. He was
Right,
dealing
okay.
with a shoulder injury, where he had to wear like a harness. It was on his non-throwing shoulder, but shoulder injury that restricted his movement a little bit nonetheless. Um,
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's been affecting him since I think week 4 is when he got that injury. So he's been playing through that for most of the season. But yeah,
Mm.
also the Colts picking up a big win as the Cardinals kind of continue to fall. They have lost, I believe it's 3 straight games now, starting with that disaster of a Lions game. Uh, the Colts end up going 9-6, and the Cardinals drop to 10-5. And, at this point, the Rams have a real chance of taking over the NFC West title, which the Cardinals have held basically all season long.
Yeah, it's surprising to see them drop off like this, given the way they were looking. And then the Colts, they've won 9 of the last 12 games after starting the season 0-3.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
that's
mean, Carson Wentz is definitely paying dividends, and I've got to give it up
yeah,
to Carson Wentz. I mean, this guy had at one point 2 sprained ankles. He had COVID at one point, and he hasn't missed a start for the Colts. So I mean, he's been through pretty much everything, and yeah, that has them in position where they are a game back from Tennessee in that AFC South chase. So we'll have to monitor that. But yeah, the Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins, definitely. I mean, it's noticeable. I mean, they've still got AJ Green, they've still got Christian Kirk, they've still got James Conner at running back, obviously Kyler, and they're supposed to be getting JJ Watt back soon on the defensive side. But yeah, I mean they're definitely struggling lately. So we'll have to see. They've got Dallas next week, so we'll have to see what ends up happening with that game.
yeah.
Um,
And the next game, a NFC East division game that I was
yep,
hoping would not go the way it did. The Eagles versus the Giants.
yep,
Eagles beat them 34-10, so pretty much a blowout. You could call it that. I was hoping they would keep the Eagles from improving to 8-7.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that did not happen. The Giants, who have long been out of any kind of playoff race, are 4-11.
yeah.
As what Philadelphia has won 13 of the last 16 games versus them. Yeah. So if I had known that before going into this week, I probably would have been like, well, it's probably not going to happen.
Well,
The
I mean,
Eagles
also,
have looked like a pretty good team lately.
yeah, and it's they're another team that's in that NFC wild card picture. That right now they're in the 7th seed. So they're the Niners are in the 6th seed. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. Obviously, depending on how these last couple games go, that will ultimately determine that. But the Eagles did win this week. We did not. Currently, both teams right now at 8-7. So we'll have to continue to monitor that. We do have a head-to-head win over them in week 2 when we beat the Eagles 17-11, though. We'll mention that real quick. But yeah, also notable, the Giants have been starting Mike Glennon for like the last 4 games since Daniel Jones is shut down. So their offense was terrible anyway, but it's been even
Yeah.
worse with Glennon and then Jake Fromm a couple weeks ago in there. So I mean, I'm surprised they got a touchdown in that game, honestly.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's right.
I'll,
That's right. That's right.
I'll
I
just
think
edit.
I just wanted to believe that because of the way the Cowboy game went. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess we'll just quickly drop into that one since I brought it up and mixed it up with the wrong fucking game. But it was 56-14. So forgive me. It's not a game I want to remember. So, and you are correct. Heineke did start that game.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where he was back and you expected better. Yeah, that dropped Washington to 6-9. Dallas is 11-4, easily in the first place in the division.
Yeah.
Should probably maintain that, I would imagine,
I would imagine.
going into the last couple of weeks here. And that is Dallas's most points in a game since Week 6 of 1980.
Ugh,
So that's just
ugh,
fucking fantastic.
ugh. Yeah. I mean, we'll get more into like what's going on in Washington and why they
Yes,
maybe
yes,
didn't
we
give
will.
their most spirited effort. Obviously, teams playing with a heavy heart, and we'll mention that later. But yeah, that was definitely not what you want. I mean, nobody was happy with that game. Obviously, from a fan
Yeah.
standpoint, player standpoint, coaching standpoint. But yeah, Dallas. I mean, they're starting to look like. I mean, they're starting to look like a pretty good football team. That defense that was god awful last year, that was like worse than the like historically bad, has
Mhm.
come on. And that's why Dan Quinn's getting some head coaching interest. So
Well, let's hope that they
yeah,
are one and done in the playoffs. I don't really
yeah,
care
yeah.
how
We'll,
good they're
yeah,
looking. I'm
we'll
just
have to
hoping for
see.
a one and done.
We'll have to see. Yeah. So the next game we will hit on real quick is let me go back up here. So Rams actually are currently ahead in the NFC West because they picked up a 30-23 win over the Vikings, which made the Rams 11-4. The Vikings dropped down to 7-8, which again that pretty much eliminates the Vikings from the NFC playoff picture. Notable about this game, other than the fact that Cooper Kupp for the Rams continues to go off on a historic pace, was the fact that Vikings receiver, who was also a very impressive young receiver, Justin Jefferson, surpassed Odell Beckham's 2,755 yards in his first two seasons, which is the most in NFL history in the first two seasons by a young receiver. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, Minnesota's got a good player in him.
Absolutely. All right, so let me see if I can get this one right. The next one, the Bills Patriots. Is that a division game?
Yep.
All right. I was pretty sure, but I was like,
yep.
All right, cool. All right, yeah. So the Bills Patriots game, the Bills came out on top of that one, 33-21.
Yep.
The ironic thing or weird thing, I guess, is they're both 9-6 now with the exact same record. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that division's going to come down to probably the last week of the season to see.
Yeah,
to see
which is always fun. I mean, when that happens, it makes it interesting till the end. At least for fans of that particular team.
Oh, for sure,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah. And Josh Allen was the first player in NFL history with 100-plus pass yards, a touchdown, and 20-plus rush. Yeah, I mean, what the? A 20-plus rush touchdown in the first four seasons. I don't even understand what this is saying.
Yeah. So Josh Allen becoming the first player in NFL history with 100 or more passing touchdowns and 20 or more rushing touchdowns in his first four seasons.
Wow. Okay, I see. Yeah, that's why I was sorry. That's impressive. Holy crap!
Yeah.
That's why
he's been very impressive, despite like a slow start where the first couple of years in his career he struggled to complete 50% of his passes, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So yeah, I mean he's really coming on strong. Absolutely. This one's another divisional game.
I was right. I was thinking. I was wondering.
Beat the dog shit out of the Carolina Panthers 32-6. With the Buccaneers going to 11-4, dropping the Panthers down to 5-10, and Tampa. They were in the playoffs last year when they won the Super Bowl, but they got in as a wild card. So the Bucs actually clinching the NFC South for the first time since 2007.
Did the Bucs play the Panthers again, like soon? I feel like I saw that.
The Panthers play the Saints this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where I saw that then.
Yeah. Or wait, hold on. Maybe let me.
What about the following week?
Okay. Maybe. Let me see. Like in the last game of the season, maybe. I can see if I can verify it real quick.
I could be wrong. I'm not sure where I heard that. Well, while you're looking that up, the next game,
okay. No. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So.
Okay. I thought so. I was like, there's no way that. All right, yeah. So that'll be funny because if they beat them 32-6, then they should probably win again.
Yeah, I mean,
given the records, you would think so anyway. But
who knows how many of the Bucs starters are going to be playing since they've already clinched?
That is very true. That is very true.
I guess
it's not a big deal so much.
Yeah.
The next game I was going to say the Jaguars and the Jets.
Yep.
like battle of the shit show teams, like
The
2 and
Jags the
13.
Jags have yet to
The
win without
Jaguars.
Urban Meyer. So so far interim
They
coach
got close,
Darrell Bevel.
26-21. I mean, it was
It was
a close
better than last
game.
week's effort. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the Jets got another win, so they're 4-11. Robert
Yep.
Salah gets himself his 4th win this
Hey,
season, so
that's
that's good for him.
better than Adam Gase.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you would hope so, Jesus Christ. But but Zack Wilson had a 52-yard rush touchdown, longest by any quarterback in Jets history. That's a pretty long.
Yeah, that was pretty
long
impressive. Like I saw
Yeah.
that happen, and he took off, and I mean that was a pretty good play. I mean, Zach Wilson, despite a pretty slow start to his career, has definitely come on recently and looked a lot better. So these last couple weeks are, and I mean the more snaps he get, every snap's valuable at this point.
He is a rookie, so you expect hopefully he has some growth.
Yeah, so the Jets were actually they were a 2-14 team last year, so they've actually doubled their win total from a year ago. So that's big for them.
Yeah,
something to build off for Jets fans. And the Falcons would pick up a 20-16 win over the Lions, which keeps the Falcons' slight playoff chances alive. It was the first time the Falcons had actually won a game in Atlanta all season. Previously, there's 6 wins coming on the road. They'd been 0-5 at the Georgia Dome. The Lions starting quarterback Tim Boyle. Jared Goff did not play. He was on the COVID list. So Lions almost getting the win, but that would drop the Lions down to 2-12-1, and the Falcons stay at 7-8, or the Falcons advance to 7-8. And,
the next game is the Chargers and the Texans, which was kind of I was gonna say kind of a surprising outcome, especially given the kind of scoring, 41-29. Texans pick up their 4th win, so they're 4-11. For them, any win at this point is great.
I mean, the Texans have won 2 straight games. They beat Jacksonville last week, and they ended up coming out. But you expected them to beat Jacksonville. The Chargers are potentially a playoff team at 8-7.
Absolutely, and they're knocking their hopes down by beating them like that.
Right.
That's very surprising to see that.
Absolutely. Definitely giving young Justin Herbert some struggles, and that's a concern coming into a game where we have to play the Texans coming up. I hadn't been worried about them all season. I'd been kind of looking at that as like an easy win, but the Texans are getting hot now with Davis Mills. We talked about the quarterback change a couple weeks ago, and starting to slowly play dividends in Houston. So that's probably good news for them, because we know Deshaun Watson's not coming back. And then as the Ravens continue to spiral, unfortunately for them in their playoff chances, the Bengals ended up picking up a 41-21 win, which would get the Bengals to 9-6. Ravens fall to 8-7. And
the Bengals had an impressive amount of passing yards. I can't remember seeing a game with 525 yards.
Yeah.
And I guess that's their 4th most passing yards. 4th most, not 1st most. 4th most passing yards in a game since 1950. I'd like to know what the other, top 3 are, because Jesus Christ, 525 yards.
Even to 46, 525 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, to destroy a normally pretty solid Baltimore Ravens defense. T. Higgins ended up having 12 catches for 194 and 2 touchdowns. Rookie Jamar Chase had 7 catches for 125 yards. Tyler Boyd, their 3rd receiver, 3 for 85 and a touchdown. They all ate good in that game against. So that was crazy. Oh, hold on, I've angered the machine. Sorry. There we go. And then
the next game after this, the Bears and the Seahawks. Now, this is always the one I know Niner fans will appreciate.
Yep. Thank you, Matt.
Seahawks lost 25-24. Very close game with 2 teams that now have the same record at 5-10.
Yep.
And this is actually the first time for Pete Carroll to have double-digit losses.
What's going to happen to Pete? I mean, you wouldn't think Pete would get fired after one. I certainly don't expect him to.
I wouldn't expect so.
Too good of a legacy there, but
absolutely.
This could be the fall of something. I mean, people are starting to talk about, maybe is Russ going to leave in the off season? He was talking the other day in a press conference about, that if The if actually the upcoming game will be his last game, his last home game with Seattle. So we'll see. We'll have to
Hmm.
monitor that situation. Obviously, he is a lot
Interesting.
of the success that they have. So
Yeah.
without him, they'd be in full rebuild mode for sure. Um, the Chiefs torched the Steelers 36-10 in a game where after previously being down 29 to nothing to the Vikings a couple weeks back, the Steelers were not able to rally in this game despite a large deficit. They ended up losing and falling to 7-7-1, and the Chiefs advanced to 11-4, which clinches the Chiefs the AFC West for a sixth straight season, which is super impressive for the Chiefs and Andy Reid.
Yeah, really. Jesus, sixth straight season.
Six
That's
straight,
they're
6 straight.
working on that dynasty. They're trying to be
Yeah,
like the Patriots were.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mahomes proving to be an ever solid draft pick, obviously, and I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
despite early
Jesus.
season struggles, they have certainly turned it on and figured it out. Speaking of the AFC West, we had the Las Vegas Raiders pick up a 17-13 win over the Broncos in a divisional game.
Yeah, they're fourth straight against
Yep,
them. So
yep,
that's
exactly. So
that's painful.
yeah, so that advances the Raiders to 8-7, keeping their playoff chances alive, and drops the Broncos to 7-8, eliminating them from the playoffs. Now, what's interesting about that is the Broncos actually have the number 3 ranked defense in the league, but their offense is so bad that normally a top 5 defensive team makes the playoffs just about every year. But yeah, the fact that the Broncos have no offense between what they had out there with Teddy, and obviously this game, Teddy Bridgewater was still injured. He's out with a concussion, so that was a game that was started by Drew Lock. So it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter who's
you
out
can't
there.
expect too much from Drew Lock. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, it
even
doesn't
Teddy,
really seem to
like he
matter
was.
who the Broncos have had
Yeah.
out there. I mean, but yeah, the Raiders keeping their slight playoff chances alive. It seems like it's either going to be them or the Chargers getting in. It's the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Colts all trying to fight for that AFC wild card spot, and there's only 2 of them. So 2 of those teams are going to get in, 2 aren't. Then
Yeah.
speaking of playoff positioning, the Dolphins doing the Niners a big solid and picking up a 20-3 win on Monday Night Football over the Saints. That game actually took place on my birthday, which I guess was a birthday gift because I was hoping so desperately that the Dolphins would win that game. And we need the Saints to lose that game, and then we also need them to lose at least one of their final 2 games to keep them out of the playoff picture, because they've got some weird type of like tie breaking situation where if the Saints and the Niners finished with the same record, the Saints would get in over us because they have a better record against NFC teams. So definitely
Mm,
hoping for a Saints loss. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah, but the Saints would end up having to start Ian Book, a rookie out of Notre Dame, their third. No, make that their 4th quarterback of the season. You never want to start your 4th quarterback of the season. They've obviously been through Jameis Winston, Tamus Hill.
Taysom Hill.
I'm combining them. I'm combining Jameis and Tamus Hill. Yeah. So they're without Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian. Although I think Taysom was just on the COVID list, so he should be back by next week. But hopefully he doesn't rush back too soon, because I like that Saint offense when we're trying to get that playoff spot when they've got Ian Book in there. Makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, so that recaps the Week 16 action. Just wanted to go through those as always, let you know who's in good playoff spots and who's obviously shit out of luck as far as the playoff positioning goes. So join us next week, and we will do the same.
Yeah, hopefully it's a better week in terms of our team.
Yeah,
My team. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, no, both our teams.
Hopefully, yeah.
That's right.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we can both get a win. Obviously, yeah. We got both Eagles and I just Eagles and Texans coming up. There we go. There it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. One quick take on just this last week and the whole COVID week, and just the way the team started out really good. Well, not really. I'm sorry. Team didn't start out great, and then they started to come together. had the 4-game win streak. Everything was looking, really good. Heineke had a lot of good games. And then all of a sudden,
he was putting it
the
together.
world was just like, fuck you, Washington. Fuck you.
Yep.
Fuck you again.
Yeah.
Fuck you 30 times, basically, because we had about 30 players out. So that's my take on this week, basically, is how it's felt. It's just a big fuck you to Washington, and it was hard. It was a hard week.
Old granddaddy fucking Omicron fucking came running through the goddamn facility, fucking all rampant. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
That team's got talent.
Not cool.
That team's got
not
talent.
Cool.
Like, you don't just go on a fucking 4-game winning streak. If you.
I know, it's like, and during that winning streak, we were still missing key players. Like Chase Young was out. Sweat was out front.
Sweat. Yeah.
So imagine if the team was actually fully healthy and didn't have to deal with this bullshit.
Yeah.
This like what is right now would not be what is. I mean, that was the stupidest thing to say, but
no, I mean,
I'm fired. I'm fucking irritated, man.
Yeah,
it was rough. Yeah. It's just a giant fuck you.
Yeah,
I mean, and then now we got to deal with this new name shit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's, we'll see how that goes, but I don't think anyone's optimistic. I think we're all going to be disappointed come when that happens. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully we'll have to see. Hopefully they can at least end on a winning note and at least get to.
Would that be 7-10?
Yeah, at least finish it at 7-10 there. Yeah, so I mean that would be big. I mean it's something, obviously.
Yeah, it gets to that point though, like we were just talking about, where it's like, I mean, if they win, yes, it's nice to win, but at this point, you're not going to the playoffs. Like, do you think about draft position? Do you just maybe play backups and just see what happens at that point? Like, I don't know. It's you never want to say that. You never want to say that's what I'd rather see. You'd rather see your team win, but at this point, it's about next season. So
draft position's only valuable if you pick well.
And that is true. And yeah, Washington has a terrible history of picking poorly under the ownership of Dan Snyder, who is a garbage. And it's probably why this name change is going to be a huge disappointment. But we will see. Let's not be negative. We'll see how it goes. Definitely. But yeah, that was my take on how shitty things have been lately.
Yeah.
So.
I get it, man. Yeah, it's been rough, especially with the expectations coming in after last year. And yeah, I mean, this team's got so much talent. Like they've got a, I think that they're, I think Heineke's at least earned the opportunity to stay around as like maybe the number 2. Like he's gotten like 14 starts, 15 starts this season, so he's gotten a pretty solid body of work. But I mean, I think that if they were to get a franchise quarterback or somebody big in free agency, that could definitely take them to the
that would be the smarter choice. Like if they can get like I was saying before, my 2 options, as I know I've said Jimmy Garoppolo. I know Niner fans are probably like, oh yeah, please take him, and I'd be like, yeah, fucking please give him, let's go. But
Jimmy
I know you wouldn't say that because Jimmy,
I like Jimmy.
You're not retarded, and you realize, Jimmy isn't amazing, but he's pretty damn solid. Like you got to be happy when you got something good.
Yeah.
You could have Taysom Hill as your starting quarterback, and I mean, come on, is that what you want?
Yeah.
Like
Jimmy has a very fast release. I mean, Jimmy gets that ball out quick.
Jimmy does a lot of good things, and yeah, I mean, if that him and Baker Mayfield, if he actually does move on from the Browns, which would be surprising, then I think that would also be an option. But I also wouldn't mind seeing Heineke come back with a healthy team, with everybody there, but I do think something else is probably necessary.
At least, if nothing else, maybe bring Heineke back as the bridge, and then maybe draft somebody that's, like a developmental prospect that maybe will be ready in a year or 2. Because
I would say that if the draft
is not good this year. It's
right,
not
that's
great.
what I was gonna say. The draft prospects aren't very good, so I mean,
yeah, but we'll definitely follow that and see how that goes.
Yeah. The biggest thing coming now, other than the Giants game, obviously, or the Eagles game, Eagles and Giants game, is the name change. So that'll be the big thing to cover once, because we're not going to the off season, or I'm sorry, the off season.
Postseason.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know
the postseason. Yeah. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
Since we're not going to the postseason, so that'll be the big thing to focus on with Washington is the name, and we can all be disappointed together.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, Redskins fans, or Washington football team, or fucking whatever it might be?
Whatever it might be.
uh, Terrible week. I'm not even gonna do the cup thing. I'm just gonna take a drink of this because that's how bad this is.
It's probably alcohol.
It probably is. Oh,
It's fine.
yeah. To start with that, because yeah, this is a terrible week. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Before we get into the terrible game that happened, there's some even worse news on a more personal level with some of the players coming into the week. The team is playing with very heavy, just to start, with all the injuries and the COVID issues on top of that. After a tragic incident involving Washington safety Deshazer Everett, that's a tough name to say. According to a report from the sheriff's office, Everett's 2010 Nissan GTR, nice car, left the right side of the roadway, struck several trees, and rolled over. The passenger, Olivia S. Peters, which was his girlfriend, actually, which was later identified, of Las Vegas, later died at a local hospital.
That's
Sources told ESPN that two other Washington players, linebacker Jamin Davis, our rookie, and cornerback two rookies, Benjamin St. Juste, told police they were driving in a car behind Everett after having gone out to dinner with him. The players remained at the crash scene to speak to the police, the source said. And Davis was excused from practice Friday for personal reasons, but Coach Ron Rivera said he expects him to play Sunday. Rivera also said he was saddened by the news of the crash. But I guess Ron, being a bit of a hard ass there, he's like, well, you got to play on Sunday.
I mean, I'm sure he probably gave him the option to play.
Yeah, and he probably won. He probably won to also. He's probably I'd rather just play, like, especially given that. Ron Rivera did also say, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the young lady and also go out to the chaser and his family as well. It's a very difficult situation, and we'll let things go on and let the police and the investigation go through and find out what happened. The 29-year-old Everett has been a backup safety and a special teams player for Washington since 2015. So he has been with the team for quite a while.
Yeah, he's been a good core player for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's you never want to see that. And then to make things even worse, you get one thing that really sucks, and then just gets piled on.
Hold on one second. What the fuck was that? My bad. Jesus. Sorry. I don't know what the fuck that was.
All right.
I didn't even open anything fucking related to anything, so go ahead. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. A few days after the game, Anthony Sweat, the brother of Washington football team defensive end Montez Sweat, was shot and killed Tuesday afternoon near Richmond, Virginia. Montez Sweat, one of the Washington football team's top players, is reportedly planning on not playing in Sunday's NFL Week 17 home game against Philadelphia, which is completely understandable, given his brother being killed. Local police reported that they received a call about a shooting around 4:09 p.m. on Tuesday. Anthony was pronounced dead at the scene. Police have yet to offer details regarding what led up to the shooting.
Yeah, and Sweat was absent from practice this week. And Ron reported that he wouldn't be playing against the Eagles. And then in regards to the situation, Ron had issued a statement saying, it is rough, and our thoughts and prayers are with the families. When we're here in the facility, we try to make sure the players understand that we're here for them. So definitely a rough situation. Two things within the course of a week for the team to overcome, obviously.
Yeah, it was just, given everything that's happened, with the COVID and the injuries, and then, two players having, Everett's out completely because he obviously got injured, but his girlfriend was killed. So that's, he's on a personal level, he's hurting. And then Montez Sweat. It's just really bad. And then earlier in the week, after Everett was involved in the single car crash outside of Washington on Christmas Eve, Rivera also moved to speak about the general mindset of his team in the wake of tragedy and in the wake of the team's lopsided 56-14 loss out Cowboys on Sunday. And Ron said, these guys are more than just robots. They're people. They've got a teammate going through something right now. It's tough. That's not normal shit. That's real life. And he actually said that in the statement. He actually cussed for a change. He does cuss in the locker room, but he's usually very professional and doesn't usually do that. So because this is really, it's real, and what what the team's going through is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's good that they've kind of rallied for, around each other. I remember, we had something similar. I don't know if you remember. It was during I think it was 2019 season, when CJ's brother got stabbed and killed. CJ Beathard, his brother got stabbed and killed, and then like he was taking some time off, and then like the team really so. Yeah, I mean it's good to see the team rally, but obviously a lot of these guys are probably hurting, and it's good that they
Yeah.
probably have a support system with the coaching staff and everything, because I feel like Ron would be a really good guy, like as far as that. I mean, especially having gone
Yeah.
through what he went through with his with his
Cancer.
cancer treatment. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, he's been through a lot with these guys, so definitely a bonded unit. But
definitely. And then unfortunately, to add to the bad news, like going into the Cowboys game, like it's like, oh, it couldn't get any worse, but then it does. The defense is without three major starters. Landon Collins, who since switching him from safety to linebacker has been phenomenal, and so he's out with a foot injury. Cole Holcomb, I would say one of the main cap of defense. He's out with COVID, and then William Jackson III is out with a calf injury.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They had mentioned that Landon Collins, Cole Holcomb first, and then Landon Collins second. But those are your Washington's top two tacklers on
Absolutely.
defense. And then William Jackson's, your him and Fuller are your starting corners, and you're without one of them there. So yeah, that was definitely a rough spot to be in, especially because Landon Collins in the last Cowboys matchup had 2 sacks and a pick. So I mean, he was one of the few bright spots in that game. So definitely could have used him in this game.
Absolutely. In the game, Dallas started with the ball. However, after picking up an early first down, Washington would stall the drive with a couple of sacks from a couple of sacks from Ioannidis and one from Daron Payne. Sorry, on a third down and long, the Cowboys tried a hook and lateral type play.
I don't know what's in there.
To Zack Wilson that was pitched to Cooper and almost fumbled away by Dallas. They would catch a break, being able to punt there instead of the fumble being recovered.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. That probably could have changed the start of the game.
I mean, given the final score, it could have changed the start of the game. But given the final score, I'm not really sure it would have mattered. But let's hurry up and get through this real quick.
Yeah.
Washington took a deep shot for Terry on their first play, which was nice to see. However, it would be picked by Trayvon Diggs for his NFL leading 11th of the season. So first play of the game, pick. We go deep for Terry, and it's picked. So really not a good start. The offense, I mean, obviously 56-14 didn't do much. I mean, the defense didn't do either. So, not that surprising the way after, when this happened, like knowing that final score, like, well, this isn't that surprising.
Yeah.
And then Dallas follows that by going 9 plays, 71 yards, and 3 minutes and 45 seconds with Dak finding Zeke in the flat for a passing touchdown to go up 7-0.
Yep.
Yeah. So on Washington's next drive, one positive was a second down play Heineke made with a Dallas defender in his face. He ducked down and sidearm released the ball to Dax Milne for 13 yards and a first down. It was very nice. That
was some Patrick Mahomes shit.
Right? It's exactly what I thought. That was really nice. And Dax Milne getting the catch, which that's great. He's a rookie, so always nice.
The young man getting snaps.
Catch the ball. Yeah. So unfortunately, the drive did stall out. As you know how the game went, not that surprising, but. And they'd have to punt. It seemed like every play Taylor was under intense pressure and had no time to read the field. So, it was great having Taylor back, but at the same time, given the way he looked and the way things were going, I don't think it really mattered who was back there at that point. Because Taylor's fairly evasive and mobile. So
exactly, and it's not just like he struggled in the last, like his worst game was the last game against Dallas too, and he even played a little bit worse in this one. So. Yeah, I mean, he's had 2 rough outings against that Dallas defense because, I mean, Dallas really has improved that defense a lot. I mean, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with after.
I mean, I agree with that, but I also think it's a matter of where Washington is at in terms of the injuries and COVID, what they were working with, a heavy depleted team. So, it's not even necessarily, I mean, obviously the Cowboys are a good team, but, I don't think they're good enough to get 56 points on us with only us getting 14 if we had a healthy roster.
Yeah.
So
it definitely plays a factor. I mean, especially with they had at least 3 major defensive starters out, probably more than that. I know they only played Jamin Davis like limited snaps. Like I think he ended up getting like 16 snaps. So regardless of like whether that was like a personal thing because we mentioned he was going through what he was going through or what, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean Dallas would score on their second play of the game, or I mean second drive of the game, with basically the same kind of design where he finds Dalton Schultz in the flat. It was just wide open receiver in the flat where
Yeah.
Washington just didn't have anybody there. It was, and you figure that's probably usually going to be where you'd have Landon Collins, like a Landon Collins or a Cole Holcomb assignment. So yeah,
Exactly. So they're
definitely.
taking advantage of where we're depleted.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Dak probably went to the Pro Bowl just based off this game alone. I mean, on an interesting note here, Trayvon Diggs, who we mentioned, got his league leading 11th pick earlier on the first play of the game. He's also surrendered the most passing yards in the league with 899. So it's kind of like a feast or famine situation with him back there.
Yeah.
It's either real good or real bad.
Yeah. After this, for the second time this season, a Cowboys defensive lineman would return an interception for a touchdown, with DeMarcus Lawrence tipping the ball at the line of scrimmage to himself, which
Yeah,
I hate to say it. When that does happen, it is always really impressive and
it
cool
was
to
a hell
see.
of a play.
I really hate that it was
Did you see
against us,
that
but
run that
like,
he made? Like kind of like jumping over those guys. That was for the big
yeah,
fella.
yeah,
That was hyper impressive. Like
yeah,
I
dude,
hated
yeah,
how
it was.
impressive it was, but
I know.
it
I'm
was
like,
hyper
fuck
impressive.
you, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was nice. Like,
It was good. It was good. I mean, you
I
got to give
I
the
can't lie.
got to
And
give the
I
devil.
went into this game expecting a loss given the way that the team's status was. So it is what it is. But if a player makes a good play, you gotta give him
You
credit.
gotta
And
give it
that
up.
that was
Yeah.
that was a good credit. That was a good play. Fuck the Cowboys, but
Yeah.
that dude had a good play.
Oh, good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, after this, it was a 21-0 at this point. So they were shutting us out at this point. At least we did get some points eventually. One of the few offensive bright spots of the day was a 48-yard deep completion from Heineke to the third-round pick, Diami Brown, who had Trayvon Diggs covering him at the time.
Yeah.
That was beautiful to see.
So put that on his tab. What's that like 9:47 now? And he's given up. He like continues to just like
Oh shit!
yeah.
It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit 1,000
He
for
probably
sure.
will. Probably will because I know he got beat a few more times in this game in the second half. So yeah.
Yeah. Another bright spot. Deandre Carter continues to be a weapon in both the passing and jet sweep game when
He
the
does.
coaching staff decides
He
to
does.
involve him. He
That's
had a big run for 15 on the drive.
yeah.
After going 70 yards in 8 plays in 2 minutes and 32 seconds, Heineke would throw an 8-yard touchdown pass to Antonio Gibson to make the game 21-7. That would also be Taylor's 20th touchdown pass of the year. So, good for Taylor.
Yeah. Exactly. If Taylor's got some incentive in there for where he gets to 20 or so, I don't know that he does, but if he does,
I don't know, but
that's
good for
good.
him if he does.
That's good for him. Yeah.
But at this point, or well, from now at this, to the half, the game just completely Washington just shit the bed. By the half, it was 42-7,
Yeah.
and the 42 points tied a record for points scored by Dallas in a half. So also just fantastic.
Rough. Yeah.
Dak at the half was 27 for 35, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. So
Yeah.
highly embarrassing.
That
But
was rough.
yeah, not that surprising. Like I said, though, given when you go into the game and you know how the team is and who's playing,
Right.
you're like, all right, well.
Right.
But still, you didn't expect it to be this bad.
And what
That's the
condition
thing.
was Taylor in? Because he was just off the COVID list. Like
That's true. That's true as well. Oh, and one other notable thing about this game, I mean, depending how you look at it, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne got into a bit of a fight on the sideline.
Yeah. That was
over,
weird.
it was very weird over who knows what. They did later on say that it was, kind of a fight between brothers, and
Yeah.
that they're all, it's fine, but still, it's really not something you want to see.
No,
I also
definitely
know
not.
that I think Deron Payne also deleted a bunch of his Washington football team stuff off of Instagram. That also could be related to the fact that the name is changing. Maybe don't read into that as much. It depends why. I mean, we don't know why he did that, but it is an interesting situation there. So we'll see if maybe he's not around next year or what this means. But
yeah, that is an interesting situation because like you had mentioned they do go back. They were former teammates at Alabama together, so it seemed like they were fine and they were out there playing together later in the
Right.
game after they cooled down. So hopefully not a major thing. And I haven't heard about him being inactive for the game against Philly, so I would assume that he's out there. But yeah, we'll have to monitor whether he's still there in the off season or potentially used as like
Yeah, I would think it would maybe be like an off-season thing. I
Yeah.
mean, like again, it's just speculation. When you hear they delete stuff off their Instagram, it's like, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Getting in a fight. I mean, with someone that's your, his brother, it just seems kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
but hopefully it's nothing. Don't read in too much into it, but you never know.
I would hope not.
Then Dallas would have a touchdown off a blocked punt, just to make things worse in the third quarter. And speaking of punting, there was one moment when Tress Way almost blasted the Cowboys video.
I like that.
with one of his punts.
I wish he would have. Fucking just like nail the fucking board at Jerry World. Just all of a sudden,
Because it's low there, right? Isn't that like an issue there or some shit? Like,
so,
is that the stadium there's an issue with that?
So, okay, so they had it lower, right? And then, like,
they raised it.
When they put it in there, then they raised it. And then
but
they
it's
kind
still
of, like,
kind of a risk, right?
But yeah. So, like, now, like, I was watching an episode of the Pat McAfee show, and he's like, now you've got to kind of try to, like, hit it. He's like, otherwise you're not going to hit it. But yeah, he if you saw the video, like it went up to the side of it, like it maybe cleared it by a matter of feet. So it was pretty interesting. So I mean, just one interesting point in a game that was not super interesting.
And then to know when it's really bad, Dak is replaced by Cooper Rush late in the third quarter, and then for some reason Kyle Allen finishes the game also.
And they
with
Kyle Allen in,
Right. Did he get hurt or something, or did they just do that? I don't even remember now.
No, they just pulled him because the game was so.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I actually watched at that point. I'm gonna be honest with you. Saw some highlights, but God, that was a painful one for me. Oh my God. But Kyle Allen would finish the game playing the entire fourth quarter. Taylor finished 7 for 22 for 121 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Terrible.
Yeah,
Terry McLaurin did not have
a little worse than his last game against Dallas, which was I thought his worst game of the season to that point.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And then to make things worse, Terry McLaurin did not have any receptions until the fourth quarter when Kyle Allen came in. Washington would get a late touchdown when Allen would connect with rookie John Bates, who would fumble the ball asking for yards, but recover it in the end zone for his first career touchdown.
That was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He was fighting through contact. The guys like knocked the ball out, like at the goal line. Like the ball's rolling around there, and then he like just dives on it over the plane. You can't advance the fumble, but he recovered it in the end zone, and they gave him the receiving touchdown. So
wow, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And Kyle Allen was actually 8 for 10 for 67 yards with 1 touchdown, so he did pretty damn well at the end there.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter, but I guess if you want to look at some positives there, that is one. He had a decent game, but we all know that would not last. So nobody wants to see Kyle Allen at the helm.
Yeah.
So, but good for him against probably like backups on Dallas. But next week we got to play the 8-7 Eagles. We'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll be healthy enough at that point to actually put up a decent fight.
Yeah.
If we had a healthy roster, things would be a lot different. But with the way things have played out, it is what it is, and the playoffs seem out of reach at this point. But
yeah, I mean, you guys basically like, I'm over here like fucking hoping that you guys with the football team and I'm into the team as well, or whatever they're going to be called, TBD. Talk about that more coming up on next week's episode. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm like fucking Princess Leia right now, sending out a telegram message through R2. It's like, help me, Washington. You're my only hope. Like, I'm just hoping that you guys can knock off those Eagles. Like, it's like hashtag beat Philadelphia, hashtag beat Philly. Let's get it trending.
Absolutely. All right, yeah, we'll cover that one next week. Hopefully it's a lot better than this week because this was painful.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night, everybody.
I don't know why I did that, but yeah, good night. Terrible week.
Hey, what's what's going on, faithful? Thanks for joining us this week on the Niners news update. So, first and foremost, to get into, it's been an unfortunate week after we bulldozed the Falcons last week. Unfortunately, we did lose, and in addition to not picking up the win, we also were without Elijah Mitchell, our star rookie running back, for the fourth straight game. So Jeff Wilson Jr. was in line to start again. He's been playing pretty well. He came off a 21 carry, 110-yard game, but definitely, not the same threat that we have with Elijah Mitchell. So in this game, we ended up losing a very close 20-17 game to the Titans. It was a game where we would actually start off with the ball first, and Jimmy was facing heavy pressure from the very first play of the game, but he narrowly sidestepped a sack and completed a ball to Ayuk for a 4-yard pickup, just to get the drive started on a positive note. Jimmy ended up going 5 for 5 on the first drive. None of his drives were more impressive than when he found Debo on an in-breaking route, which would get the Niners all the way down to the 1-yard line. And on the very next play, speaking of Jeff Wilson Jr. would take it in on a 1-yard rushing touchdown. With the extra point by Robbie Gould, we would go up 7-0. So Tennessee's first offensive play was a screen pass to Dontrell Hilliard, their running back, or one of their running backs that's filling in, since they're obviously notably without Derrick Henry. He got blown up by Nick Bosa in the backfield for a loss of 8. So Tennessee did manage to convert a 3rd and 11 that they had to face when Tannehill found Westbrook Akine. And on the next play, though, Samson Ibukam would pick up another sack. Now, I feel like we have been mentioning that almost weekly because he's been coming on really strong. And that gives him now 4.5 sacks on the season for Ibukam.
Yeah, you know he's going to be around next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming in on a 1-year deal that we got from the Rams, and I would imagine that we'd bring him back for defensive line depth, especially since I don't see us keeping D Ford next season. So that puts Tennessee behind in the down and distance again. They were behind in the down and distance a lot in the game in general. That kind of came from not having Derrick Henry that they could run the ball on first and second down with.
Right.
So this
if
time
they get Derrick Henry back, man, I don't know if he's supposed to be back anytime soon, but if they do get him back, I mean, the fact that they still won this game,
he's projected to be
surprising.
activated either around the last game of the season or potentially for the playoffs. So we will certainly cover that and let you know as soon as he is set to be activated. This time, though, Tennessee couldn't overcome being behind in the down and distance, and they would be forced to punt. We would move the ball well. I mean, we were continuing to move the ball, all throughout the entire first half, all the way into the red zone. But Jimmy would actually force the ball into Kittle in the end zone, and he was covered by Jack Rabbit Jenkins, formerly known as Janoris Jenkins, and he would pick off the ball, and that would give possession of the ball to Tennessee at the 20, since it was picked in the end zone. Prior to the pick, Jimmy was 8 for 8 for 104 yards. It was also the first red zone pick Jimmy's thrown since 2019, November of 2019 against the Cardinals.
He had a really good start though. Before that, I mean, 8 for 8 for 104 yards.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, and he's been hot coming in. We'll put up a graphic of Jimmy coming into the Tennessee game and let you know like what his numbers have been looking like. He's had the second best quarterback rating to Aaron Rodgers during the last 4 games. So definitely came into this game playing very, very efficiently. Now on that drive that Tennessee would get and they'd take over with, facing a 3rd down, Titans would get the ball to A.J. Brown on an end around, but it was perfectly read by Fred Warner and blown up. So that would force another punt. A lot of teams trying to run the ball with the receivers. We talked about it in the Washington segment, how they've started to do it more with Deandre Carter, and I think that's a good thing because he's kind of filling that role that Curtis Samuel should have been filling all season.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Since he's just like made of glass apparently, and just never can play.
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, so Fred Warner blew that up. We take over again, and at the end of the first quarter, we'd outgained Tennessee 132 yards to 12, and
Yeah,
in theory,
that's impressive. Like,
yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I mean, we should have been up at that point at least 10 or 14 to nothing if it hadn't been for that red zone pick.
Absolutely.
And
Probably would
then
have won the game.
yeah, I'd imagine so. So after catching two passes in the first quarter, Kittle wouldn't be targeted again for the remainder of the game. So yeah, Kittle was on a historic three-game stretch against Seattle, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, where over the course of
Mm.
3 games he had 425 receiving yards. So for him to only get
Damn.
21 receiving yards in this game was a little disappointing. But they just didn't really look his way after the first quarter. Um, Now Jimmy had an opportunity to hit a wide open Kyle Juszczyk, which I would say, I mean, the interception was a bad play, but I would say this was really like his first big miscue of the game because the interception was
Mm-hmm.
tight coverage by Jack Rabbit Jenkins, but Jimmy just like Juszczyk was wide open by about 15 yards, and Jimmy just overthrew him. Juszczyk was trying to make like a diving effort, and I mean that would have been a touchdown right there if we're able to get in. Um,
Yeah.
so a few plays later, we're facing a 4th and 1. We would end up going for it. Jimmy rolls out to the left with the Tennessee defense coming after him, and actually unloads and finds Debo for a first down. So we kept the drive going. So that was awesome. The drive ends up stalling out though because Trent Williams gets called for a face mask on 3rd down. So that backed
Fucking
us
Trent
up.
Williams. No.
Yeah, I mean he's a great player, but he
He
definitely
is a
has
great
some
player.
untimely penalties. But that
He
set us
does.
up with a 3rd and 26.
Mm.
Debo on a little screen managed to get us in range to add a 48-yard Robbie Gould field goal to take a 10-0 lead. So at that point, looking pretty good for the Niners. 10,
This sounds like that Eagles game again.
yeah,
The first Eagles game.
I thought that too.
10-0.
I thought that too. I was like, it's almost like that Garrett Gilbert game where you guys got out to the 10
Yeah,
nothing start.
everything's great. We're maybe win
Yeah,
this game. Oh no,
yeah.
no, you're not. Just
And
slow the
then,
fuck down.
and then the bed gets shit. The bed gets
Yep.
shit. And then yeah, so our defense was playing great too at this point, as they usually do. 3 of Tennessee's first 4 drives started with their first down play going for negative yards. So the Titans would end up picking up 1 first down on that next drive before having to punt again, but they were doing a lot of punting early on. Now on the next drive, Jimmy would end up suffering what was he didn't miss any time, but it was mentioned after the game that he had suffered a sprained thumb on his throwing hand when taking a 3rd down sack by Danico Autry. And we'll go ahead and put the stills up. We've actually got a shot where it shows as he was getting sacked, the Tennessee defender has a hold of Jimmy's thumb. Like, okay, well I can see when you've got a 300-pound man that takes you down by the thumb.
Yeah, and this feels like the moment where the game kind of turned. Things were going.
Numbers,
I mean,
yeah.
He did throw a pick and he didn't have any touchdowns, but 13 for 16 for 136 yards with he had one bad pick. Yeah. But if other than that, he had a really good start.
Yeah,
and then after
I
this
think that
injury,
it definitely affected him. It had to.
Absolutely.
It's on his throwing hand.
Exactly. It can't not affect him. So,
right.
And the fact he kept playing, it's like that kind of explains to me why that they didn't end up winning this game. Because if that hadn't happened, I'd be willing to bet that the outcome would have been different.
I'd imagine so as well. Yeah, and then the issue gets compounded after that when Wishnowsky has pretty much a shank punt on the day. And notable Wishnowsky news is it was actually revealed after this game that we'll report on that Wishnowsky was the first player all season long for the 49ers to test positive for COVID. So his status for the Texans game is up in the air. The Niners have signed a punter to the practice squad, Colby Wadman, just in case Wishnowsky can't go on Sunday. So the Titans...
Amazing you've only had one COVID positive player.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Washington has about 22.
I know, especially, I'm shocked by that. I am absolutely shocked, especially with the outbreak across the league. Yeah. Now, Tannehill would end up taking a deep shot on rookie Ambry Thomas. And we've been talking about Ambry just about every week now. Ambry's on like his 4th start, but this time he made an excellent pass breakup when targeting A.J. Brown, Tennessee's best receiver. Also notable that I'll throw in, this was only the 7th game where Tennessee had Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in the same game. And Julio Jones had 1 catch for 7 yards on the first drive and was shut out the rest of the game. So that's notable. But we did get killed by A.J. Brown, as we'll get more into here in a little bit. So the Titans would not even manage a field goal attempt in the first half. They'd end up punting the ball back with 1:27. So the Niners having 2 timeouts. They try to get in range to add more points, but we would not be able to add anything. So we would end up going into the half leading 10-0. So definitely not a significant lead against a team like a top 10 defense in Tennessee. You could see why we only had 10 points, but I definitely by no means felt good about it in the first half. And I'm glad I didn't, because Tennessee came out, got the ball in the second half, and they'd be facing another 3rd and 15. Had them in long down and distance all day, facing a 3rd and 15 in the second half. And they were much better at picking up the 3rd and longs that they faced. So Tannehill finds Westbrook Akine again for 24 yards. Later on the drive, facing a 3rd and 7, he finds A.J. Brown, who, like I said, destroyed the secondary in the second half. They would end up converting 3 3rd and longs on that drive on us alone, after not being able to sustain anything in the first half. So finally we end up getting them to stall out and force a 38-yard Randy Bullock field goal to make it 10-3. So this is maybe where, because Jimmy had really only played like 1 drive after suffering the thumb injury in the second half. So this is where I think it started to more affect his play. On the first play of the next drive for the Niners, Jimmy ends up sailing the ball while looking for Debo and throws his 2nd pick of the day, and the Titans end up returning the ball inside the 20.
What's crazy is because on the opening play of the first half, he throws a pick. And then on the opening play of the second half, he throws another pick. Although his thumb was fucked up at that point. So
yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, it wasn't
understandable, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's just an odd coincidence there. It's like, man, the first play both times, like.
Well,
but I would
actually,
imagine that the thumb had an impact on the second time.
Yeah. So actually, on the Niners' first drive, it was their second possession that he threw the.
Oh, it was their second possession.
Yeah.
Okay, my mistake.
Because they got the Jeff Wilson touchdown on their.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But let me just give you A.J. Brown's numbers real quick. A.J. Brown for us, or against us, torched us for 11 catches for 145 yards and 1 touchdown. So we got absolutely killed in that game. I mean, there are reports that we might be getting Emmanuel Mosley back, who hasn't played in about 4 weeks. He's our number 1 corner with Jason Verrett being out. So yeah, we definitely need him back. Hopefully he can return by the Rams game. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely been struggling in the secondary. So Ambry Thomas, let's give the young man credit again, because he actually played a pretty decent game. I mean, he did get beat by A.J. Brown, but so did Norman when they ended up trying Josh Norman on him. But Thomas,
Josh Norman's not that great, but yeah.
Josh Norman struggled this season for sure at pretty much a lot, other than he does lead the NFL in forced fumbles though. So grateful to have him in that.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't he get a good punch out fumble at one point this season?
Yeah, he's had several. He's got like 6 forced fumbles.
Remember, one was just like a solid punch, like right on the ball.
I want to say that was against Seattle. I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like a boxing KO.
But it was just like boom, like.
Yeah, I mean Frank Gore could have used that.
Oh shit.
But yeah, anyway, with Ambry Thomas making a second pass breakup in the end zone, Titans end up getting in a couple plays later anyway on a Deonta Foreman touchdown run from 3 yards out to tie the game at 10-0. So midway through the third, after having a 10-0 lead at halftime, all of a sudden we're tied 10-10. And like I said, I knew Tennessee was going to be a struggle, because even with all the players they've had out, this is a good football team. I mean, they've got a chance to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's either going to be them or Kansas City.
Right.
So on our next drive, facing a 3rd and 7, talking about a lot of these same young guys every week for both Washington and San Francisco. Juwan Jennings, continuing to solidify himself as a potential number 3 receiver behind Ayuk and Debo. Juwan Jennings making a nice catch on a 3rd and 7 for his first catch of the night. Jimmy would find Ayuk for a gain of 17 on the next play, then facing a 4th down and 1, second of the day. Before the snap, Trent Williams would be called for a second.
Trent Williams again with his goddamn penalties, man.
Start.
All too familiar.
Moved us back to a 4th and 6. And a situation where Jimmy and Ayuk had a miscommunication where Jimmy thought Ayuk was going to come inside and Ayuk just turned and did the curl. The stick route. The stick route where you can either run and do the curl or cut in. Jimmy thought he was going to cut in and Ayuk ran the curl. So it was a miscommunication. And Jimmy, Ayuk ended up having to extend for the ball, but it was just it just hit him in the hands. So Tennessee takes over. But on the next drive, and I know we've mentioned him in the last couple weeks, backup lineman Jordan Willis, who we ended up picking up last year from the Jets, ended up getting a big sack to set up a 3rd and 23. But we would jump and give the Titans a free play. And Tannehill knew it, so he took advantage of Ambry Thomas. And Ambry Thomas had man coverage on A.J. Brown. This is one of the times that he got beat. And he had a good shot on the ball. He was right there. It was a contested catch. But A.J. Brown, is just an out-of-this-world receiver. He's really good. And he made a nice leaping catch over Ambry Thomas to gain 42 yards. So a couple plays later, we get our 3rd sack of the night. Contavious Street getting in there. He actually got a sack while being engaged in a block. He was getting blocked, and then he reached one arm out and took Tannehill down. So that was one. That's
always fucking sweet to see when
Contavious Street is coming on. He's had some injury problems. He's always been somebody that I've really wanted to see take the field, and because of the injury this year to Javon Kinlaw, he's gotten more of an opportunity to play at that inside defensive tackle spot, and he's had his best season ever. That's his 3rd sack of the season. And, so, again, facing a 3rd and 10, Tennessee converts, finding, again, A.J. Brown. Like I said, he had 11 on the day. He killed us. And after that one, we ended up making the decision to switch to Josh Norman to begin covering him. And Tannehill still found A.J. Brown for a touchdown on that drive. So at that point, Tennessee takes their first lead of the day, 17-10. So it really didn't matter who the hell was covering him. So we really need Emmanuel Mosley back ASAP. So on the Niners' next drive, we would begin with Juwan Jennings dropping the ball, unfortunately on 1st down. On the second play, Debo would take a pitch out of the backfield, as he does so well for us in this game.
Yeah, seeing him do those plays, he's obviously a great receiver, but when they do run him out of the backfield like that, it's entertaining to watch. It's exciting, and he does it well. So it's great to see a receiver get to do both roles like that.
Debo on the day had 5 rushes for 32 yards, and he had 9 receptions for 159 yards. So Debo had 9 for 159, and A.J. Brown had 11 for 145 and a touchdown. So both of those guys went off. Those are 2 great receivers for their respective teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously Washington in good shape with great young receivers as well, with young Mr. McLaurin. So
yeah. I mean, he's obviously pretty much the best player on the team.
You need to get him a franchise quarterback to throw him the ball to, but yeah, absolutely.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah. So then on that next play that we were talking about, an encouraging drive originally after we got that 1st down. Started to look pretty bleak when Alex Mack would get called for holding. Then Jimmy would get sacked again, facing a 2nd and 29. Jimmy finds Jennings on an 8-yard gain on 3rd down, but we end up going, it's like a 3rd and 21. We find Debo for 12, but we were facing a 4th and 9 at that point. It was too long to go for it. We had to punt. So at least it was a great punt that time. Backed Tennessee up, and then after Tennessee picked up a few 1st downs and bled a few minutes of clock, the Niners actually got their 4th sack of the day, which was split between Aziz Al-Shire and Samson Ibukam, which would actually be a split sack between each and give that's what would give Ibukam his 4.5 sacks on the season, which ties what he had last year with the Rams. Unfortunately, though, after that sack, Aziz Al-Shire would exit the game, so that was unfortunate. He would not return. The Niners would take over with 5:18 in the game, needing to go 96 yards backed up. 56 of that, though, coming on one play. This is a lot of the 159 I mentioned that Debo got when he hit him on a 56-yard slant, taking the ball all the way down to the Tennessee 6. Then Jimmy finds, it was great. It was a huge catch and run effort. And then Jimmy finds Ayuk in the back of the end zone to tie the game, 17-17. But we unfortunately left Tennessee 2 minutes and 20 seconds to work with, so it was kind of like the Green Bay situation, where Jimmy led us on a great drive down there, which was great to see him bleed us all the way down there with the thumb injury and throw a touchdown pass to Ayuk in the back of the end zone. So then on the next drive, we helped Tennessee out, unfortunately, when former safety turned converted linebacker, a la our Landon Collins. Marcel
I was going to say, sounds like Landon Collins.
Would be called for the Niners' league-leading 17th defensive pass interference call of the season, which would give Tennessee an automatic first down. Tannehill would scramble on the next play for a 23-yard gain, and that would unfortunately set them up for a 44-yard game-winning Randy Bullock field goal with 9 seconds left on the clock. Now, the worst thing about that, like I saw it happen live, and Randy Bullock barely made that kick in. Like, it was like by that much.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh my God. You know, we'd be playing in overtime if it wasn't for that. So the Niners end up having 4 seconds on the clock. They try some crazy lateral shit, which was obviously unsuccessful. Like, they throw to Debo, then they go to Ayuk, then it went to Jimmy, then it went to Kittle, then, you know, like it went to, I think, Hasty, and then like it ended up like getting tackled. So we got like 40 yards down the field, but it was just, you know, one of those absolute desperation situations where it's like, wow, this is what we're reduced to. Well, okay, you know, if you could just get in range to even give Robbie a shot, you know, like you feel pretty good about that. He's one of the best kickers in the league.
But, well, with 4 seconds, you don't really have time for that.
Exactly.
You need at least like 11 seconds, maybe, probably, to throw a deep enough pass.
Exactly.
And that's like bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they were really, really desperate. So, like I mentioned, after the game, it was revealed that Jimmy had a sprained thumb, and you know that he's going to need off-season surgery. And it's also been announced that Trey Lance will be making his second career start this Sunday against the Houston Texans. So we're going to definitely monitor that situation and evaluate that and give our scouting report on how Trey looks in his second career start. Obviously, start number 1 was a 17-10 loss to Arizona, which he played a game where he ran the ball 18 times and, you know,
he's got to pass more, man. I mean, hopefully he does better this time around, but he's got to be able to pass more.
I mean, he's definitely gotten, you know, more practices. You know, the defense says he's been tearing it up in practice, so I'm excited to see it. You know, hopefully we can get Jimmy back for at least the Rams finale in the playoffs, if not that. But we'll continue to monitor the situation, and join us next week, and we'll let you guys know how that goes. That's going to do it for the Extra Point Show this week. Definitely make sure that if you're not already following us and subscribe to us here on YouTube, that you do like and subscribe this video if you like what you see, and join us back for weekly NFL content as we will talk about the latest and greatest NFL news and what's happening with the playoff picture next week.
And be sure to check out the Niner News Update and the Redskins Rundown if you're a fan of either of those teams as well.
Absolutely. We will have those posted on YouTube. We also have, as you'll see on the screen here, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So definitely follow us on all of those platforms, and you'll get more up-to-date information as well. But thanks for joining us, and you guys all have a great night.
Have a great night, everybody.